Something awakened inside me this month. A general disinterest in Splatoon. Splatoon 3! I've always enjoyed the Splatoon franchise, but my interest in it definitely peaked with the first entry. That was such a unique game at the time in every way. The gameplay, the aesthetics, it gave the Wii U a completely original new title that was unlike anything else out there. I played this one a fair bit, and while it had some issues, such as a lack of content at launch, not only was it great to see a brand new AAA Nintendo IP, but for it to be this addictive, charming, and overall great, made this one of that console's defining moments. Now do it again. Splatoon 2 launched just 2 years later, which made sense considering this was for Nintendo Switch in its launch year, and with how popular the first game was, you would want to keep that momentum going with your brand new console. And obviously, that was the right call to make. That game went on to sell a metric numbers worth of copies, but for me personally, I wasn't necessarily hankering for more Splatoon at the time. It was so soon after the first game, on top of 2 launching with minimal content again, and the content that was there, like the single-player campaign, it just felt like more of the same from Splatoon 1. I just didn't care. Of course, you had cool new additions like Salmon Run mode, there were more multiplayer stages, and it looked a lot better, even if at the time it was hard to tell. And nowadays, it's so easy to see how much they improved on in Splatoon 2. And that goes for the game in general. I don't want to downplay how good of a game this is. I'm just explaining why it didn't really grab me, and by the time I was willing to give it another try, fast forward to Splatoon 3's reveal in February of 2021, and all I could think of was how unnecessary it felt. Once again, I wasn't hankering for Splatoon because I barely even played more than a few hours of Splatoon 2, and with all the new content they added, I could very easily just pop that into the same console Splatoon 3 was releasing on and get my fix right then and there. As a casual enjoyer of the series, this game wasn't showing me any reason to want it outside of being a new release, so more people would be playing it. Over the year and a half build up to launch, which is quite long by modern Nintendo standards, no trailer or announcement ever interested me about this one. It just felt like the same song and dance from the first 2 games. Oh, the single player trailer features multiplayer footage, then it's interrupted by a transmission. A Salmon Run, it's pretty much the same thing from the last game, which this all inspired a ton of discourse I saw. Critics would say, Splatoon 3 looks the same, it needs to be more different. Defenders would respond, it's a sequel, what are you expecting? It's not going to be a completely new experience. And while I understand both sentiments, even if I am definitely more on the critic side, I feel like there was a fair amount of miscommunication going on. Like, neither side actually knew what the other was trying to say. I think I was looking for that major hook, that new gimmick to set Splatoon 3 apart from the others. While core fans understood that this is an online multiplayer game, Splatoon 2 is pretty old at this point, so you need a new, refined release to bring in a larger player base. Plus, those fans already noticed loads of gameplay and visual differences, more than enough to warrant making a new game. Neither side is wrong here, but considering my history with the franchise up to this point, and Splatoon 3 launching on the same system as Splatoon 2, and to the untrained eye not doing all too much to differentiate itself, I was not excited for this game, though I still picked it up, played it at launch, and Splatoon 3 is good, but man, I just don't have much passion for this one. It's like, I don't know what to say. It's Splatoon. Though I'm thankful this one didn't launch half-baked like the others and felt much more like a proper sequel compared to Splatoon 2 when that released, which felt far more like Splatoon 1.5. The single player here is pretty substantial. I love how it starts out like any other Splatoon single player, then expands into this massive world, which is exactly what I wanted out of a Splatoon story mode. Until you actually enter the levels and they're all just self-contained missions. This feels way more challenge mode than actual campaign. It's still good, don't get me wrong, very similar to Splatoon 2's Octo expansion DLC. But looking at this giant hub world, it feels destined for so much more. With how much Splatoon pushes its lore, its universe, it wants you to feel like this is all a living, breathing world, going as far as making the user experience worse because of it. All for the single player to be the most video game level-y things imaginable. And they're good video game level-y levels, but it just confuses the hell out of me. This hub world shows how cool a more open sandbox-style Splatoon campaign could be. Imagine something like Bowser's Fury or Mario Odyssey, but with Splatoon mechanics. That would be incredible. But instead, we have a single player that's fun and well designed, yet I always felt teased by. This opening cutscene, Splatsville, the single player hub, they all gave me hope we'd have a far larger world than usual. But in the end, this is just sort of more of the same, presented as if it's not. But obviously, the multiplayer is the main draw with this title, and it's Splatoon multiplayer. It's fun. I don't know. There's a plethora of content here, enough to easily recommend Splatoon 3 to anybody interested. But my God, I just have nothing to say about this game other than it's more Splatoon. Splatoon is fun. I'm sad. I definitely played this more than I did with Splatoon 2, so take that for what it's worth. I do understand why this game exists now, as yes, for an online multiplayer-oriented series like this, you do need to freshen things up via new releases. There's only so many updates you can do to Splatoon 2 until you just need to straight up make a new game. And they do enough here, but not enough for me to be head over heels in love with it. Splatoon 3 is a good game, but one I just don't have any strong feelings about. God, I could use a game that made me feel something. Anything! I feel sorry.